The uncomfortable truth about why you're still single. I still remember sitting in a bar when I was 26, watching a guy walk in, average looking, nothing special about his clothes, nothing remarkable about his face, and within 20 minutes, he had every woman in that room leaning toward him. Not because he was rich, not because he was the tallest man there. I was taller. And I sat in that corner, nursing my third drink, wondering what the hell I was missing. I went home alone that night, like most nights, and I told myself the same story I always told myself. The right one just hasn't come along yet. That story kept me single for 3 more years. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to stop lying to yourself about why you're still alone and what it actually takes to become the kind of man women are magnetically drawn to. Let's start with the hardest pill because everything else builds on top of it. You are not single because of bad luck. You're not single because women are too complicated, or because the dating market is broken, or because you haven't met someone who gets you yet. You are single because somewhere along the line you stopped growing. And you dressed that stagnation up in reasons that sound reasonable enough to believe. That's the trap. Reasonable-sounding excuses are the most dangerous kind because they never set off an alarm. They just quietly keep you exactly where you are. Think about the last time you genuinely frightened yourself with a decision. Not reckless, frightened because the stakes were real and the outcome was uncertain. For most men who've been single a long time, that moment is hard to locate. And that's the first clue. Women are not attracted to comfort. They are attracted to momentum. To a man who is going somewhere, building something, risking something. When you've been playing it safe, in your career, your friendships, your daily routine, that energy follows you into every room you walk into. She doesn't know why she's not feeling it. She just knows she isn't. And you go home confused because you were perfectly nice, perfectly agreeable, perfectly forgettable. Here's where most men make the critical mistake. They diagnose the problem as a skills problem. They read about conversation techniques. They learn how to hold eye contact for 3 seconds longer. They study what texts to send after a first date. And some of it even works briefly before the facade cracks, and the same hollow foundation underneath sends everything crumbling. You cannot technique your way into genuine attraction. A woman's instincts are older than language. She is not evaluating your lines. She is reading the man delivering them, and if that man has no depth, no direction, no real fire underneath the rehearsed exterior, she feels it before you even open your mouth. The guys who are never short of options aren't running better scripts. They've built better selves. So let's talk about what that actually looks like, not in theory, but in the uncomfortable reality of your daily life, your standards for yourself. Not the standards you talk about, but the ones you actually enforce when no one is watching. The gym session you skipped because you were tired. The business idea you never started because you weren't sure it would work. The friendship you've outgrown, but you're still maintaining out of habit. The dream you've been planning for 4 years without a single concrete step taken. Every one of those quiet surrenders registers somewhere in your body language, in the way you carry yourself, in the way you enter a room. Confidence isn't a performance. It's the residue of keeping promises to yourself. And if you've been breaking those promises in private, you are walking around, leaking that energy in public and wondering why she doesn't feel it. The man in that bar, I figured him out eventually. I got to know him. He wasn't extraordinarily talented. He wasn't fearless, but he had one quality that cut through everything else. He was genuinely unbothered by her reaction, not because he was cold, not because he didn't care about people, but because his life was full enough that any single outcome didn't carry the weight of his entire self-worth. He wanted her attention, but he didn't need it. And that difference, that single psychological gap between wanting and needing, is the entire game. When you need her approval, she feels like a judge. When you want her company but don't require it, she feels like an option you're generously considering. The dynamic flips entirely, and you can't fake that gap. You can't manufacture it with a technique. You close that gap by actually building a life so solid, so purposeful, so genuinely engaging to you, that a woman becomes an addition to something great, not the solution to something empty. The reason this is so uncomfortable to hear is because it puts the responsibility entirely on you. And we live in a culture that has spent a long time handing men very convenient external targets. The dating apps are rigged. Women want bad boys. Society doesn't value good men anymore. And look, some of those conversations have partial truth buried inside them. But here's what they all have in common. They end with you sitting still. They are conclusions that require nothing from you. And any belief system that demands nothing from you while keeping you exactly where you are should be treated as a threat, not a comfort. Because here's what's actually happening when you buy into that narrative. You are choosing the pain of stagnation over the pain of growth, and you're justifying it intellectually so it doesn't feel like a choice, but it is a choice. Every single day. The man who blames the dating market and the man who transforms himself in spite of it are both responding to the same world. One of them will be in a completely different position in 2 years. The other will have 2 more years of increasingly sophisticated reasons for why nothing is his fault. Now let's talk about something that almost nobody addresses honestly, the role of emotional availability, and how most men have it completely backwards. You've probably been told at some point to open up more, to be vulnerable, to share your feelings, and you may have tried it, and it may have gone badly, and now you either overcorrect into emotional stonewalling, or you've swung the other direction and you're leading with your wounds on the third message of a conversation. Both are wrong. Both come from the same broken place. Real emotional availability is not about volume of disclosure. It is about the quality of your inner world, a man who has done the work, who has sat with his failures, interrogated his patterns, taken ownership of his damage, carries a different kind of presence than a man who is either suppressing everything or vomiting everything. She doesn't need your trauma on the table. She needs to sense that you have an interior life, that there is depth behind the eyes, that you've thought about who you are and why you do what you do. That is what creates emotional intimacy, not confession, but substance. Most men who are chronically single are not emotionally unavailable because they feel too little. They're emotionally unavailable because they haven't developed a real relationship with themselves. They don't know what they actually value, not what they think they should value, not what sounds impressive, but what genuinely moves them. They don't know what they're building or why. They haven't grieved what needs to be grieved or confronted what needs to be confronted. And so, when a woman of real depth sits across from them, there is nothing to meet her with. The conversation stays on the surface, not because he's playing it cool, but because there's genuinely nowhere deeper to go. This is the work that no one wants to talk about, because it doesn't come with a 3-step system and it can't be completed in a weekend. It is the slow, unglamorous process of becoming a man who is interesting to himself. Read things that challenge you. Put yourself in rooms where you are the least accomplished person. Build or create something with no guarantee of success. Develop opinions through experience, not through the algorithm that feeds you content designed to confirm what you already believe. Spend time alone without filling the silence with distraction, because the quality of your solitude determines the quality of your presence. A man who is comfortable alone is immediately distinct from a man who needs company to feel okay. She feels that distinction every time. And underneath all of this, underneath the confidence, the purpose, the emotional depth, there is one raw truth that ties everything together. You have been waiting for the right circumstances, the right moment, the right woman to appear and make the transformation feel worth it. But transformation doesn't work that way. You don't become the man first and then do the work. You do the work and become the man as a consequence. The version of you that deserves the relationship you want does not exist yet. He is built in the daily decisions, the kept promises, the chosen discomforts, the rooms you walked into afraid and stayed in anyway. She is not the destination. She is evidence that you arrived. Stop waiting for her to give you a reason to become who you're supposed to be. Become him first. Become him relentlessly, privately, without an audience and without a guarantee. And when she shows up, and she will, you won't be auditioning for her approval. You'll just be a man who has nothing to prove, standing in front of someone worth choosing. That's not attractive. That's irresistible.